Are we ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
How's everybody doing? Good?
Oh, come on, we can do better than that. How's everybody doing? Much better.
Well, welcome to Volume 9 of Pechakucha Night Des Moines. We're thrilled to be here in the Science Center and to be partnering with the Tomorrow Plan tonight, and we're so thrilled that you guys were able to come out and make it. So just a quick show of hands, because this is how we start all of our events. I just want to see how many of you have ever been to a Pechakucha event before, right?
Ooh, very good.
Down here in the center, they've been to all 9. Keep your hands raised. Yeah, Michael?
That's right.
I lost my train of thought entirely. All right, so the rest of you have not been to a Pechakucha Night event. We can all make that assumption. So just a really quick little introduction. The correct pronunciation is Pechakucha. That's the #1 question we receive is, how do you pronounce it? It stands for Chit Chat in Japanese. It started in Tokyo as a way to give designers a chance to share their stuff, and eventually it grew organically. And we were excited to be the 331st city to bring it, and now there's over 510 cities internationally who have these nights. So it's a really, really cool event, and we're excited that you guys are here.
Mm-hmm. And this is a special event for us tonight. We were approached by the NPO and the Tomorrow Plan, and this event is all focused on topics related to the Tomorrow Plan. Who here in this room has heard of the Tomorrow Plan? Hopefully a lot of you. Very good. And what I wanted to talk a little bit about the Tomorrow Plan is, you hear a lot today about how Des Moines is #1 of this, #1 of that, and that took a lot of planning for some of those things to happen a number of years ago. And the Tomorrow Plan is really, okay, here's the next vision, the next step going forward. And so you're gonna hear a lot of topics, a lot of discussion about that tonight. And this is your night to kind of get educated a little bit on the Tomorrow Plan. Then at the end, we'll talk a little bit about ways that you can get involved and give some of your input as they work through the process.
So like a typical Pechakucha night, we're really excited because we have 9 presenters. So we'll have 4 presenters in the first half. We'll take a quick beer break, and then we'll have 5 presenters in the second half. And before we get started with our presenters, we really want to give a big special thanks to the Science Center. So let's give them a round of applause for hosting our event. And for Rua Arnold for designing the event poster tonight. The poster is very, very cool. So, and then I'd like to introduce Sarah. I knew I would screw up your name, sorry, Kobilka. And she's going to give us a quick little welcome message, so give her a round of applause.
I want to thank all of you for joining us. This is my second time going to one of the Tomorrow Plan events. And of course, the big emphasis that I got taking away from Tomorrow Plan is sustainability. So I said, okay, where do we go with that? Well, when you need to sustain someone, you feed them. And here at the Science Center, we're about feeding, but we're kind of tricky. We're like the parents who took the food and took carrots and cut it into really cool shapes. So the kids were eating the carrots and they were getting healthy stuff, but they thought they were playing. And that's what we do here. We're playing. The kids are meeting a black bear, which some of you guys already got a chance to do. Maybe they're playing with bubbles or they're building with Legos. They're playing. It's guided learning, though. So they're playing, they're having fun, but they're taking a lesson away from it. I'm also in charge of summer camps, and I got to throw in my pitch. Sign up for summer camps now if you've got kids from age 4 up to 8th graders. We have a lot of fun here. We also have a series that I'm in charge of called Cafe Scientifique. So you guys seem like the type of people who are the lifelong learners we're looking for. We do an event monthly. It's free. Sometimes it's here at the Science Center. Sometimes it's at other places. And it's always about some type of new science or research that's going on. So our next one is going to be here at the Science Center on May 1st. We have John Deere bringing in some really cool, huge machines, and they're going. The title of the event is Precision Farming: Can a Tractor Drive Itself? And it's all about what technology they have so that machines can communicate with each other. We're doing something about training premier athletes for the Olympics in July with the Healthy Living Center in YMCA in Des Moines. And then we are also having a big event here at the Science Center tomorrow night. We are announcing our next big traveling exhibit. And the question that we want to ask all of you to think about is, would you go to Mars? And that is your little sneak peek as to what the Science Center has coming up. Check out our website. Also at the table when you came in, we have $1 off coupons for Lost Egypt, which is leaving here on April 29th. So only 2 weekends left of that. So we hope you can come back, enjoy the fun learning that we really focus on here at the Science Center. So thank you.
Thank you, fellow Sarah without an H. I am honored to introduce our first presenter, Angela Connolly. Please come to the stage. Angela is the Polk County Supervisor and co-chair of the Tomorrow's Plan. She is also the chair of the DART Commission, a tri-chair of the Capital Crossroads effort, and is involved with many other civic and community activities throughout the metro area. So give her a big round of applause.
And I'm glad to be first in this event. And that doesn't count to be my 20 seconds either. Okay, great. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. This doesn't count either, because I get to look at my slides as I talk. Okay. The Tomorrow Plan, partnering for a greener, greater Des Moines. We've got great things going on in Des Moines right now, and we're also ranked, to be one of the top places to live, work, and play. We're going to grow. We're lucky that we were picked to have a $2 million grant for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. We were only recipient in the state and one of just 45 throughout the nation out of 24 interested parties. So we were very, very fortunate to be one of those recipients. The next slide is going to show over 500 square miles and has about 500 residents. We are working with 17 communities and 4 counties to create a more vibrant future for our region. We're very fortunate to have all of the collaboration that goes along with that. That vibrant future will come from looking at 17 different elements and how they relate to one another. Anything from land use and transportation to economic development to landscape and ecology to a sense to place to local foods. All of that shows those different elements. Those are the things that we're working on every day when we talk about the Tomorrow Plan. The elements all overlap with one another and impact various systems, including watersheds, cities, rivers, and roads. We cannot consider them in an isolation. They offer choices for everyone who wants to call our region home, and we continue to operate, not under business as usual practices. Over the past 20 years, much more of our region has urbanized, sometimes taking away prime agricultural land and natural habitats. And what if this continues for another 40 years? What then is going to happen? Last year, our planning area maintained a balance between open lands, shown in the next slide, are green, and residential uses, shown in oranges and yellows. If we continue as we have over the past 20 years, things will definitely look different. Our region could look much different in 2050. Residential uses could take up nearly half of our land, while agricultural uses could decrease by over 20%. What will this mean for our other systems? We could probably see as much paving. Of course, I'm waiting for the next slide because I talk really fast. It will not be business as usual. Sometimes, as this slide will show, all this will represent, and it could be the same as paving Saylorville Lake 5 times. That's a lot of paving. We will be able to provide housing choices that match the changing needs and wants of the population. Studies show that 12% of millennials want to live in neighborhoods, not only just have single-family homes. It will be different for everybody. Finally, the business-as-usual model could lead to eroded stream banks, deteriorated fish habitat, dirtier streams, and increased local flooding, which in turn weighs in on our infrastructure system. That's what happens when we're not responsible, when we do development that is just not right for our, when we do infrastructure that does not happen the way it's supposed to. We so far have worked with steering committees. Oh, first I want to talk to you about, this is what we do when we sit down and we say, where do you want to be? How do you want to live? Where do your neighborhoods? Locate your home. What is your favorite place to shop? Where's your favorite place to go for a restaurant? Do you want to live in that neighborhood? What do you want to live on? Where do you want to be on a Sunday? This is what our steering committee does, and we sit down in some of our outreach meetings, and we plan for the day when our consultants come, and we try to shape our region's future. That's what the Tomorrow Plan's about, and that's what we want you to do when you come to our outreach meetings. We've had a lot of speaker series. We've had great planners from Chicago, Atlanta, Kansas City. We've had a gentleman from Bill Fulton that's come from California. We've had Peter Katz that just was here recently. We've had great opportunities for everyone to come and listen. We've had people have great ideas, and some of you I know I've recognized have come to these outreach series to talk about what you want to do in your neighborhoods and what you'd like to see for the future. So it's great opportunities for sustainable Greater Des Moines and what you want to see for 5, 10, 15 years down the road. We really want you to have the opportunity to come to these public meetings and to share your ideas, because this is really about you and what you need to and how you want to see the impact of the future. We're all available, the steering committees, for you to come and talk to us. We have a great website. We have a mind mixer that is a great online tool for you to get involved in. We have great social media that you can connect with. Tomorrowplan.com. We have every steering committee is available for you to talk to. All other elected officials that sit on the steering committee, we'd love to visit with you. And this was one of our beginning outreach meetings. We had a lot of input. We've got other partners from the Housing Trust Fund, Community Foundation, United Way, DART, DNR is part of our steering committee. Young Professional Connection, the partnership. We all want to hear from you. And this is my passion. This is why I do it, because of my grandkids. This is really about their future. So I live and breathe this every day. And so I think I really want my community to be better. I might not be here in 50 years, but I do this for them. So I want you all to get involved and come to these outreach meetings and tell us how you want the community to grow. These are the dates. Please come. These are great, really interactive meetings. Tell us what you want Des Moines to be. It's a great place, and we've got a lot of great things to do and a lot more things to look forward to. Thanks for being here tonight.
All right, next up we have Chadden Halfhill. Tonight, Des Moines sculptor and entrepreneur Chadden explains how creative collaboration and the broad support of big ideas helps provide a sustainable future for humanity and an ecological home. Please welcome Chadden.
That's gonna be, for those of you who know me, this is going to be interesting because 20 seconds is a short time. I'm passionate about home. Our home, the planet we call Earth. Nature provides inspiration. She is awesome and spectacular. I am worried that our relationship with her is unsustainable. I think new solutions and big ideas help restore that rapport. I'm also passionate about creativity. The endless capacity to imagine and invent provides great promise. Consider embracing the silent river in yourself, honoring your own creative voice, and share your inspiration with others. Imagine the positive impact and influence that you contain individually. Utterly amazing, isn't it? I am passionate about connectivity, especially as expressed through biodiversity. The interdependent connections that we share with each other underscore the importance of rebalancing humanity's ecological relationship. Consider fostering a love affair with the native Iowa prairie. I am passionate about water, a resource elemental to nature's vibrancy, as well as our own survival. Prioritizing the vitality of our rivers is imperative. And I am passionate about people. I worry about the impact prior decisions have had on humanity and the future of our children. I am passionate about planting new ideas, seeds that grow, or that can grow and nurture a sustainable ethic. Regenerative models that expand the framework of our businesses and communities can be risky, but encouraging collaboration and supporting audacious ideas beyond their genesis can provide both influence and momentum. I am passionate about being a catalyst, leading the development of scalable solutions that restore and regenerate ecological and community relationships. It's going to be funny because that's the end of my notes. So, and that took me all day to make. And I read about a third of them. So 3 slides on being an artist. I wanted to talk about collaboration. My work as an artist for my first decade was about the criticism of the relationship between humanity and civic structure and ecology. This one in particular looks at the impact of civic structure on prairie, and that's prairie root balls. And you can tell it's kind of a corn crib on the inside of a building in downtown Grinnell. So I was looking and exploring the idea of our relationship with the natural and its impact particularly on our business structures. I'm now more focused on the building itself and how do you take and shape that building so that it has impact. And it starts here at a building in Sherman Hill that I've been working on for the last 6 years. This building is a nondescript building. It doesn't have a whole lot of discrete character other than the fact that it's part of the defining character of the neighborhood and the history. And how do you take that building and say, I want to make a difference. I want to show you how to go there. So we designed a concept called Green in Maine, which is really looking at using this building as a prototype or as a model to explore best practices within building science, within the practices of reclaiming and restoring an old building and then representing it back in a way that it sustains another 100 to 150 years. And here's our groundbreaking. You know, it's interesting when you realize you plan a groundbreaking and in the hour that you're there, it rains 2 inches. But it shows you the importance of placing your tent, but it also showed it poured and we had a parking lot that filled up with 2 inches of water and everybody stood the test and listened to, and we had this incredible groundbreaking. Here's our, we excavated the site. We had 2 foundations, 3 cisterns, and then we had to actually pull out a boiler, and we did a permeable paver parking lot. This on top of the building is a vegetated roof that is was put in last fall, and that will help slow the infiltration of water and clean the water as it moves out off the roof and into the site below. But for me, it's about how do I steward the land and steward the water coming off of the building. This is the soil amendments. We moved in 6 inches of compost and amended it with 12 inches of soil and ripped it down into 18 inches below that, and prepared the site to be able to handle a large rain event so that we didn't have to send it to the municipality. And of course, it's helped by the native plants, which tie back to the earlier slide that I talked about with the restoration of the prairie. You also have a water reclamation component that'll come off of the entry roof. The green roof is up above. So coming back to this initial global idea is looking at biodiversity and bringing that native root system and plant life that we actually have so much, and we have removed, bringing it back and restoring it, and being inspired by the sunlight and the dawn that actually gets created every single day. The reason I named it Emerging Horizons is that when you're looking at the horizon, when you're driving down the road, when you're sitting and staring at the sunrise or the sunset, there's always a sense of possibility. And it's when it's that possibility, that inspiration, that potential for collaboration that we can facilitate the change that we're looking for, and the ability to restore that environmental connection between us as humans and the rest of the ecology that we're part of. And this you'll learn a little bit about later. It's about it's kind of an inspiring thought for another presentation you'll hear later, so I'm gonna leave it with that.
Our next speaker is Michael Garvin. He's the president of Transfer Specialist for the University of Iowa. He is presently assisting countries and corporations manage the shift from a fossil fuel economy to a carbon-free economy. And just tonight, he was sharing with me that he's just been appointed the director of the Caribbean Islands Curaçao conversion to sustainable energy and transportation program. So let's give him a big round of applause.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me here tonight. I'll speak quickly. There's a lot to say. What is Des Moines going to look like in 2050? Imagine. We have the John Lennon project now, Imagine project in Curaçao, where we're creating the first sustainable, durable economy in the world. It's put together by China, the United States, and Europe. Imagine that our spaceport is 40 miles south of the city, where you can go to Singapore in an hour and a half. That's being done in Curaçao. We'll have the spaceport open there for trips to the space station by 2015. Imagine wind turbines that are both vertical and horizontal, running energy systems into this box. This box is the change. This is an example of a phase change material box that can hold 100 times the amount that a lead-acid battery can. So imagine wind turbines powering this. This little box can move a car on 80 cents of electricity, 897 miles. Imagine they're doing this in China and Malaysia already. Imagine solar, like we're doing now in Tucson, that a solar system that is as big as this room can power this box, and this box can power a third of the population of Des Moines for a penny a kilowatt hour. Imagine entire cities like this one in Curaçao, funded and fueled by these phase change materials. Imagine hydrogen, which is already being developed at the Hydrogen Engine Center in Little Algona, Iowa, also in Berlin and Beijing, that will make hydrogen out of water through an already discovered cracker situation where you can get 1/2 of a penny per kilowatt hour to create a generator set, all powered by wind-driven, cracked water. Imagine that fuel and energy would be 100th the cost that it is today. Imagine what we could do. Already, engines like this are running in small, remote areas in Africa. Imagine that we will have 200 of these in the island of Curaçao in 2 years. By 2050, these will be all over Des Moines, especially at the spaceport. Imagine that we can grow our food more efficiently, irrigate more effectively. Imagine the University of Iowa now step forward and put this up. Imagine these all over. I travel tomorrow to establish a 20 electric car site with Kansas City Power and Light. This is already in operation at the University of Iowa. Imagine that Mitsubishi will supply 20 cars to the University of Iowa. Imagine that Nissan will provide cars. So will Ford and Chrysler, all electric cars within 5 years, all driven by these kind of transformers, and this inside of the box on the left driving both your cooling, your heating, and your electrical needs. Imagine utility companies basically watching and managing from a remote location all of these boxes and controlling those for your benefit. Imagine how that will be. You don't have to imagine too far because it's already happening in Beijing and Malaysia and Curaçao. Now we bring it to Iowa. Imagine one of the biggest international movers in transportation is right here in Des Moines with Gene Gabus. Imagine electric cars and compressed natural gas cars and hydrogen cars coming out of his dealership on Merle Hay Road. Imagine all of this coming together. Imagine energy extremely cheaply. Imagine transportation extremely cheaply. Imagine never having to fight a war over oil again. Imagine we are now at whale oil levels with peat moss energy. Imagine what it's going to be like when we break that paradigm and step out of whale oil and peat moss into the sun's energy captured efficiently without carbon release, without degradation of our planet. Imagine the less war, less degradation. Imagine cars like this that are now available in Europe and in Des Moines. Imagine that you can drive these with these kind of phase change materials, 872 miles on 80 cents. Imagine these trucks now being assembled in Santa Ana, California, but within 6 months assembled here on Merle Hay Road, a combination of Chinese technology and General Motors know-how. Imagine those running on phase change materials and compressed natural gas. Imagine buses already all electric. Imagine transporting people at a penny a mile, 50 and 60 people at a time. Imagine no tailpipe and no emissions at all. Imagine this is already happening in Australia, where they're converting 80% of their bus fleet. Imagine this car, the Miev, the Mitsubishi Miev, we're putting 250 of them in Kansas City alone. Imagine that this will be in Des Moines within 6 months. Imagine Carousel is ordering 16,000 of these. Imagine no emissions at all. Imagine transporting people, no conflicts, very little cost of energy. Imagine a world like that. Just imagine. Imagine economies growing on the new technologies that are coming in. Imagine those technologies coming from China. Imagine they're coming from places like Romania and Colombia and Brazil. Imagine, because it is already happening. It's coming together in Carousel. The Department of Energy and the Chinese Department of Energy have joined forces, and that's where it'll start. Imagine the Isle of Carousel. It's being introduced by Santana Concert in September to announce the first fully sustainable, durable economy. Imagine, thanks to John Lennon. Thank you.
All right, next up on the stage is Aaron Todd, is the president of the 6th Avenue Corridor, which coordinates the commercial revitalization of 6th Avenue from I-235 north to the Des Moines River. And he is also the vice president of the Riverbend Neighborhood Association. Laura Graham is resident and volunteer in the Riverbend neighborhood, and this presentation will identify the challenges and opportunities specific to Riverbend's revitalization efforts and connect those issues to the broader planning goals of the Tomorrow Plan. Please welcome Aaron and Laura.
All right, good evening, everyone. So we're going to talk with you a little bit here for the next 6 minutes about the Riverbend neighborhood, and this is a really horrible map of where that is in the city of Des Moines, probably the worst light of the night. This is just north of downtown Des Moines, and then this is a cutout of the 6th Avenue corridor that runs kind of right through the middle of this. So this is an old neighborhood. It used to be the city of North Des Moines. We're going to talk about some of the challenges that we've faced here over the years. We're going to first show you the uninspiring photos of some of the issues that we have to face, and then we'll talk about some of the positive things that have been happening in the neighborhood and some of the assets that we have to build on, specifically as that relates to redevelopment and the role that that will play in the regional planning effort. So this is a photo of conditions on 6th Avenue right now. They're pretty poor. Actually, this is a couple of years ago. You can't even walk down the sidewalk, for instance, without running into a street pole. Imagine if you were in a wheelchair, how would you maneuver through this area? Would you just go into the traffic lane, which is probably what would be required in this case? And unfortunately, at one time, or fortunately, this area was a walkable pedestrian commercial corridor. And today, it is basically a place for cars to drive between the north part of downtown or Ankeny into downtown, back and forth. That's the value of this road. And we are saying that that is not the value that we see as residents, as property owners, as business owners along 6th Avenue. We have a different vision for what this area should be and how it should function for those of us here. We also have a housing issue that we've been addressing. Here's an example of a boarded up house that's about 3 blocks away from where I am now. I see a lot of opportunity there. Others who aren't familiar might see distress, disinvestment. And so we know that we have to work hard to get property owners to make appropriate changes and the right type of redevelopment. We also know we have a lot of assets. So I just showed you a bad picture of 6th Avenue. This is a nice picture of 6th Avenue. Every single one of these properties is on 6th Avenue between I-235 and Hickman Road. They are all on the National Historic Registry. These are strong assets in which we can build and grow our neighborhood. These homes all exist within Riverbend. So I showed you a photo of some maybe not so great homes. This is the potential. Almost every single one of those looked similar to the ones before 10 years ago. We've come a long way, and we have quite a few more examples besides this that we can show as hope for where our neighborhood is headed and what it will take. This is an interesting before and after photo. This home, the home on the right, it's on the market currently. Over the last 9 months, 12 months, it went from what you see on the left to what you see on the right. And that took a lot of dedication, some sweat, and of course, a few dollars. But it's possible. And this is the type of story that we are telling about the optimism and the hope of our future. So we really look to the past to inform and provide that vision for the future of the Riverbend neighborhood.
All right, so here's a picture of the historic 6th Avenue Bridge. It looks pretty impressive. If you saw the bridge today, you would say it needs a lot of work. What's really exciting is that this summer, the city of Des Moines is doing some bridge improvements. Sure, that means taking a look at making improvements to the deck, but it also means widening sidewalks, and more importantly, it means bringing down a really large, unattractive fence so you can see beautiful views of the Des Moines River Valley. What's really important when we talk about streetscape is really about how we're connecting our residents to the street. And sure, that means cars, that means buses, but it also means bicycles, and it means our feet. So when we start talking about that connectivity, we want to come up with something that really inspires our residents to get out and engage in this part of the city. So as we start looking at this sort of, these next few slides here, they really do demonstrate some of the ideas that have come together for our streetscape concept. Clearly, we're talking about wider sidewalks. We're talking about the bike-friendly shared lanes here, bus transportation and general car traffic. But notice how much wider these sidewalks are from the photo above. But when we talk about these things, we have to also be honest with ourselves. This neighborhood is not just the most diverse neighborhood in the city, it is the most diverse neighborhood in the entire state of Iowa. That's something that we should celebrate and we should really embrace. So how do we do that? How do we integrate our cultural differences and our similarities into a streetscape process? We had some really exciting partnerships that came together. The Greater Des Moines Public Art Foundation provided a grant to the 6th Avenue corridor to work with Indigo Dawn. You heard Chad and Halfhill earlier. The results of his work there was to really incorporate artwork from a cultural perspective. The result of that was a report that's called Un Nuevo Amanecer, a new dawn, a new beginning. And that's really what this is. What we want to be able to do is tie our cultural differences within our community to our historic past. And this slide here is how Chad envisions incorporating art into our streetscape process. That's pretty cool, right? We're really excited to see color, see vibrancy in an area that right now is a lot of slum and blight. We have a lot to celebrate, but we have a long way to go. We work in a lot of different partnerships. This is a really cool 3D representation of 6th Avenue from bridge to bridge. And this was done through a partnership with Iowa State University students. It's really impressive and really big in person. But ultimately, when we're talking about streetscape, when we're talking about our community, it's really about bringing our residents together. We need to have a sense of place. And we do that not just through a streetscape, but we also have to interact. We're interacting through things like our Rock the Block. We partnered with Habitat for Humanity last year. We also went through National Night Out. We celebrate our victories together. And then, more importantly, we're having our third annual Jazz in July on July 21st. We hope you guys want to come and enjoy the music with us. But when we're talking about revitalization of a neighborhood, we want to make sure that we're talking about reinvesting in existing neighborhoods. It's equally important to when we're talking about urban sprawl or suburban sprawl. We want to pull that all together, and we know that we have to do that together in a partnership with everyone. Thanks.
Thank you guys very much. Let's give a big round of applause to all of our first half presenters. You guys were great. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take a 10 to 15 minute break. So feel free to use the restroom, grab a drink, talk to one of the presenters, and then we'll be back in 10, 15 minutes. Thanks, you guys.
See you in a bit. Thanks. That has to be like the best that we've ever had coming out of beer break. It just got so quiet, and everybody's. Usually, we're fighting to get people back to their seats and away from the bar, so that's very, very good. So, one thing I wanted to ask too is if you didn't when you came in or when you leave, make sure you sign in so we can have a list of that. And also, wanted to get a flavor of what different communities people are from that are here tonight. Raise your hand if you're from Des Moines. Raise your hand if you're from the western suburbs, one of the western suburbs. Ankeny, Johnston on the north. How about East Side? Are my East Siders in the house? Okay. Just want to get a little bit of flavor of who's here tonight. So, next is Adam. Adam is the manager of sustainability for Come and Go. He is also the co-founder and president of Urban Ambassadors, a local nonprofit. And there you got a little fan club over there. I like that. And you're a hub for sustainable living in Greater Des Moines. Please welcome Adam.
So if my slide comes up, I'm going to try to go slow because I talk really fast, and I'm glad that everyone is now drunk so that it'll be funny, everything I say. And in the context of just all I love to do is inspire environmentalists to do more of what they do and be successful, insanely good at what they do. And in the context of a business, I want to take all this regional planning stuff, shove it in the box of business, and hopefully you'll leave with some ideas that you can do. So the idea is, what is sustainability? And people say that all the time. Profit, people, planet. So it's the triple bottom line. It's what everyone's really good at, what some people are really good at, and what a lot of people forget about in business because they're not trained in it. But if you understand ecology, you have all those three capitals, and that's what sustainability is to us. On this, you really want to stay on the side of the right hand of the chart. Sustainability is whole system, strategic. It's not just, are my napkins recycled? It's, am I creating a plan, kind of like the Tomorrow Plan, that will get me where I want to be in the future? So it's a vision. And when you have a vision, you have to have a plan, a strategy to get you there. So you have to have awareness, a strong vision. You have to understand, creating metrics is a part of my job. If you can't measure it, then you don't know how to manage it, and you have to be moving in the right direction. So it's a lot of creativity, and a lot of people don't get that creativity at the office, but I do, and I feel very lucky. And this didn't really come out as a slide, so it's missing all kinds of good stuff. So I could just say that what you want is to have a plan. You need a lot of the little stuff that's not nearly as exciting, so you can afford to do the little bit more complex stuff, and then in the end, spend a whole lot of money, because some things are not cheap. But if you can do that, I'm going to show you a ton of little projects we have. This is the Green Task Force at Come and Go. It's been around for 4 years. They volunteer. One of the things that they did on Earth Day was they changed to all reusable cups in our bistro, saved over $27,000 a year, and kept 197,000 cups out of the landfill. We always try to switch to single-stream recycling. It actually saves sometimes money just by switching. The service is cheaper. But all you have to do is shift some trash into the recycling, and you save money because trash is always more expensive than recycling. So there's a business plan for all of these things. And if you can go find out how your business spends money, you can do the same stuff. Coffee. These are new coffee burners. These are replacing the old ones. They're 90% more efficient, and we save tons of money every year by switching these out because they're cleaner, they're easier to handle, you don't burn yourself, the coffee tastes better. This is like a win-win-win-win-win-win for everybody. So everyone needs to know their hot button issue. Ours is fuel. And so we have double wall fiberglass tanks under the ground that have sensors in the gap, and we have 24/7 sustainability consultants that are monitoring that to send out emergency response teams so that we should know about the leak before it's actually a leak. We have biofuels. That's something we can do to support, from the people side, Midwest farmers, but it's also something that creates money for us because we are creating a niche for biodiesel fleet vehicles. So they know us, Come and Go. We're known for a lot of things. One of those is biofuels. So these are ways that we can turn something into a business case, because that's the only way that we can get it to occur in our business. We're piloting level 2 charging stations. We've done 6 of them throughout Iowa and Arkansas, and we're now on 5 regional planning teams around the Midwest talking about level 3, what's the future of electric vehicles. We're trying to get better products in our stores, USDA organic certified. mixes, teas. I think Honest Tea is the next thing that we're going to be piloting. That's a secret, so now you know. But it's our first look at like fair trade items. But we're always trying to get those, pilot them, and see if they can actually sell. Because if they don't sell, then we have to pilot something else. This is a website on our green building practices. It just launched, so this is a secret too. It's not supposed to launch till Monday, so now you can go see it. But we're building LEED certified stores, and we have been since 2010. So everything that we build that is our new footprint, the larger store, is submitted for LEED certification, which is a big deal. Look it up. LED lighting in our coolers is something we did 150 stores last year in Iowa. That's how we retrofit. Most of this stuff is already in our new stores. It's kind of our leading edge. But then we take our best practices and we put it in our existing stores. We have 400 plus stores in 11 states. This is LED retrofits in the canopy, which we did 10 stores. It's much harder and much more expensive to do outdoor lighting, but we did 10 stores last year, and we plan on doing a lot more next year. It also is just comfort and safety. We can't turn down the lights too much because people want to get to our store. This is the newest thing. We've only done it in one store. It's tube lighting for LED, and it's the least tested technology, but we wanted to pilot it anyway. It's over in Waukee by the school, and it's LED tube lights, and it's actually, people love it. The customers like it. It's better lighting. Our associates like it, and it's 63% more efficient than your T8s. This is what I like because I'm a geek, and I love energy analysis, and people think it's boring, but I love digging through spreadsheets, and this is our energy management system that we're piloting, and we hope to roll out to all of our stores so that from our hub at the office, we can manage all of our facilities' utility bills throughout the whole 400 plus stores in 11 states. This is our first solar project that came online last year, 927, sorry, I throw out store numbers, a store in Newcastle, Colorado, and this is a 7-year return on investment, and that's mostly because of insane incentives that were available in Colorado at the time. But we are piloting it, and this is how we make the business case. If we do a lot of the things that can save us money, like compliance, fuels, commingled recycling, coffee urns, new products, reusable mugs, we can invest that money in LED stores, measurement and control, LED lighting, EV charging, and then take advantage of incentives when they do exist and do things like piloting solar projects that normally wouldn't get funded. And how do you engage people? We send out weekly reminders, and I try to highlight people that are doing awesome things in the company. This goes out once a month with pictures, and then we try to use our giving to align things with like green school programs, Keep Iowa Beautiful, Trash Bash, and try to use our giving to align with that. Thank you.
He is the design specialist for Main Street, Iowa, housed in the Iowa Economic Development Authority. In this capacity, he provides comprehensive technical assistance and training in the areas of design, historic preservation, planning, and downtown revitalization in Iowa's designated Main Street districts. Let's give him a round of applause.
I feel overdressed with my tie on, but thanks. So think back through your experiences and what is your favorite place and what makes it so memorable. Is it somewhere where you could grab a great bite to eat or shop your favorite store? Engage in activity? Does it evoke your emotions? Is it a place to gather with friends, or is it just a wonderful place to take a seat? During my short time tonight, I'd like you to keep that question in the back of your mind. Great places exist all across the country and throughout the world. Many times those places strike our fancy with so many intangible things that we can develop a very tangible connection to that place. I think back to one of my favorite places, the riverfront in Savannah, Georgia. And I can't tell you one specific item that's created my love for this space, but I could tell you that every time I've experienced it, I'm left with a lasting memory. So if we could think of a great place and we could start to identify what we love about them, then how can we start to create great places where we live? This idea of placemaking has taken root in many communities as a concerted effort to capitalize on existing assets, inspiration, and potential to create memorable, vibrant places where we want to gather and participate in community. At its core, placemaking is a multifaceted approach to planning and design of public spaces. Put simply, the process of placemaking involves looking at, listening to, and asking questions of the people who live, work, and play in a particular space to discover their needs and wants. Put simply, placemaking should be viewed as a philosophy as much as a process. It's bigger than one person or organization and truly takes roots as a grassroots, bottom-up approach. While it is a tool that can and should be used by planners and developers, it is only effective with the buy-in from stakeholders. With necessary partnerships forged, placemaking has the ability to strike a balance between the physical, social, and emotional qualities of a place. This is not a new idea and was first discussed in the 1960s during a time in American history when we began to plan our cities for the automobile rather than walkable, lively, mixed-use neighborhoods and inviting public spaces. Since that time, this idea spurred the development of many public spaces and important community revitalization programs. One program that has ties to the genesis of the placemaking movement is the Main Street program. Main Street is a comprehensive, historic, commercial district revitalization program that addresses economic development through the lens of historic preservation. Iowa's Main Street program is widely viewed as one of the strongest in the nation and includes 48 participating districts throughout the state, including 2 here in the metro. Another program that grew out of this idea is the Project for Public Spaces. Founded in 1975, PPS is the primary organization which advocates, partners, and fosters successful public spaces. One of their core concepts of placemaking is the power of 10, an idea that any great place itself needs to offer at least 10 things to do or 10 reasons to be there. This could be anything from history to experience to a place to gather with friends. From a city view, it's not enough to have one great place or neighborhood. We need to provide people all over the city with close-to-home opportunities to engage in public life. And regionally, we need a collection of interesting communities to create a critical mass. So let's take a few seconds to look at a place close to home, which I consider one of many great places in the metro. You could look at art, read about art, do a cell phone tour, experience the downtown skyline, run up hills, roll down hills, smell the flowers, take a seat, grab a bite to eat, and depending on the time of year, you could take in a festival. And if you happen to be here with my son, he would add dance. And I show this not for a couple reasons, not only to show off my cute kid, but to illustrate the point that true placemaking takes place at the smallest scale. And second, with any place, it is important to consider how kids will interact with your place. Because as we know, if we get the kids, we also get the adults. So let's dig a little deeper and look at a few things to keep in mind when getting started. For tonight's discussion, I've used a set of hybrid principles from the Main Street approach and the Project for Public Spaces. First and foremost, it's setting a vision for the place. What do the stakeholders, not the planners, want for the space? And what does the space be and how does the vision instill a sense of community pride? And while we're all for instant gratification, we must constantly remind ourselves that no great space happens overnight and no single lavish project will act as a silver bullet. Instead, we need to appreciate the process and focus on small incremental changes to reach our goals. In the end, it is this incremental change which will lead to sustainable positive improvement. A concept we hear repeatedly in community development is sense of place. While many try to create it, true sense of place is a reflection of the community's heritage, personality, and unique physical environment. And it is these authentic, existing assets we must identify and capitalize on to serve as the foundation for our placemaking efforts. As we've discussed, the community itself should be the driver of any effort. But I will take that one step further to say the community should be considered the expert through the process. In the end, no one can create a successful, authentic space except for the community. Think of this as a self-help program that fosters long-term success and community involvement. Now, I'm not saying that the responsibility solely lies on the community. Both public and private sectors have a vital interest in the space and must work together to achieve common goals. Each sector has a role to play, and each must understand the other's strengths and limitations in order to forge effective partnerships. A core value of quality over quantity should be incorporated. And while we want to encourage activity, cut and paste efforts can only reinforce a negative perception. I know what you're thinking, dollar signs. And while it is a reality that everything does have a cost, buy-in and participation from the community can reduce those costs and create a balance between the cost and the benefits. To succeed, we must show visible, frequent results. These frequent visible changes are a reminder that the effort is underway and succeeding. Small projects in the beginning pave the way for larger ones as the effort matures. And the constant activity creates confidence in the space and greater levels of participation, keeping in mind that we are never done. Sometimes the most difficult part about any placemaking effort is changing the perceptions and attitudes towards a specific space. A carefully planned, coordinated, and implementation-based effort will shift public views and practices to support and sustain the space. While always easier said than done, skeptics will turn to believers and attitudes will change. As I wrap up my discussion tonight, and we continue to focus on Greater Des Moines tomorrow. I would encourage you to use your new insights on placemaking, combine them with the elements and emotions from your favorite space, and bring your passion to this effort in order to better the network's region of great public places and spaces, because in the end, we are the only ones who can. Thank you. Next up is C.G. Matrician. Hey, I got it right, didn't I? And she is the owner of Recycle Me Iowa. She was unsatisfied with the status quo in the United States after an eye-opening experience in New Zealand and decided to do something about it. Here is her story.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you for the Tomorrow Plan for inviting me to do this. I'm really excited to share my recycling story with you. So what is Recycle Me Iowa and who am I? Recycle Me Iowa is a doorstep recycling service for apartments, small businesses, and we specialize in events. And I'm C.G. Matrician. I'm an Iowa native, and little did I know that growing up on my dad's junkyard, I was training for my career when I was picking up the cans out of the junk cars to get 5 cents. My mom also taught me a very frugal mindset. We had a big family and everything was secondhand. So you guys know the reduce, reuse, recycle slogan, phrase, whatever. But what it actually is, it's a mindset. And what I want to do here tonight is help you guys throw away your wasteful mindset and start becoming more resourceful and more mindful. So how did I get there? Well, at UNI, I did a speech on curbside recycling because they didn't have anything there. And I found out 2 reasons why people don't recycle. They're either misinformed or they are informed, but they choose to do nothing, so they're lazy. So after I did all this research in the speech, I thought, crap, now I can't be lazy. I have to get crazy. So I moved to New Zealand after I went to school so I didn't have to get a real job. And in New Zealand, this is where it was a pivotal moment in my life because I saw an entire country, the entire community being more useful and more resourceful. They weren't wasteful. They lived with less and they were happier. They were outdoors more. They appreciated the outdoors. If they fixed something with duct tape, it was called Kiwi ingenuity. So I come back to the States and, you know, I'm still geeking out with recycling and I come across the story of stuff. I highly, highly recommend that you guys check this out when you go home tonight, tomorrow, the weekend, 20 minutes of your time and it will blow your mind. This lady simplifies the entire process of stuff and our infatuation with it. And one of the facts that I learned about it is all of our stuff is made to be trashed within 6 months. That's how you make money. Keep people going. It's crazy to think that. Everything that comes into your hand has to go somewhere. And if it's out of sight, it's out of mind, right? Not really. So I'm living in Des Moines, I'm living in an apartment, and I've got all this knowledge with recycling. It's a habit that has already been developed, and you know, it's one of the habits that people don't tell you to break. I'm living in an apartment, I'm pulling my hair out because recycling is a pain in my butt. The landlords won't do anything, I'm calling the city won't do anything. So, Recycle Me Iowa was kind of born through that. I didn't understand the problem. There seems to be simple solutions for every problem. You get a container and you have somebody pick it up, right? The money is an issue, right? Everybody wants to know about how's the money gonna get there? Well, the policies in Iowa are a little bit different. How come San Francisco can divert, 75% of their waste, but we can't? They have policies. But I'm not sitting around waiting for a policy to change because it takes a while. We're doing something right now, every single day. So, Recycle Me Iowa was born. We were born to help apartment tenants. That's all I was focused on. I was an apartment tenant, there was a need, other people were having the same issues that I was. So hey, why don't we just give them a container and we'll pick it up. They'll give us a small fee for it, and we'll make everybody happier. We'll start recycling good vibes. So this is one of the reasons why apartments say that they can't recycle is because they don't have room for another dumpster. So we're taking the trashiness and turning it into classy because, hey, recycling's sexy, right? So if you live in an apartment, this is a simple solution for you. We set up a program to make it convenient and easy for you guys to be able to do the right thing. So as soon as we get press, small businesses started calling and they said, nobody will help us either. We keep calling the city and they won't give us a solution. None of our waste haulers will help us. They don't have enough room. They want bulk materials. They don't really care. So, hey, let's fix this problem. Let's give them a container and let's pick it up. Again, simple solution to every problem. Another problem that we see, events in Des Moines. I hate to say it, but they're kind of trashy. It's okay though, because we're here. We're here to help. These are some pictures that I took from St. Patty's Day parade, the aftermath, and it was pretty scary. And every time I go to an event where we're not involved, people tell us to get involved. And this is how it can look. The bottom picture here is an event that we did with New Belgium Brewery, and it was 600 plus people, and out of the 600 people at the event, that's how much trash we accumulated, because we diverted everything else. Simple solution to every problem. Give them a container, show them where to put it. So that's where you become part of the solution and not part of the problem. Everything that you touch has to go somewhere. And you remember back in the day when you were a child and you put the circle in the circle hole and the triangle in the triangle hole? It's kind of like the same situation. So we can do this. It's not that hard. Another way that you can help is your money speaks. And we have purchasing power. It's called supply and demand. There are materials and companies out there who are focused on sustainability. And by you investing in them and choosing their products over something else, you're showing that your demand with your purchasing. Other things, Recycle Me Iowa. We're trying to solve all these issues and we're going against policies and we're doing it grassroots style. So if you know anybody that lives in an apartment and they have an excuse, we're eliminating those excuses. Small businesses, you're part of an event, you're an organizer, get a hold of us. We got to start putting sustainability on the top of our mindsets. So let's throw away those wasteful mindsets and start recycling positive behaviors, because it's just a habit. And it's a habit that people aren't going to try to make you break. It's something that's very easy that we can do. Next slide. I just found this quote mainly because it had the word tomorrow in it, but it's very, very true. What we do today right now affects all of our tomorrows. So instead of it becoming a huge problem, let's solve it right now and make a plan to do so. So if you guys want to get involved in any way, shape, or form, we're more than happy to hear any thoughts, opinions, and good vibes.
Thank you. I'll talk over here. Hello. Hi, this audience. How are you doing? All right, so next up we have Chris McCarthy, who is the Community Health Manager at the Center for Healthy Communities at Iowa Health Des Moines. Chris is also the chair of Healthy Polk 2020, so give him a round of applause.
Thanks. Not that long ago, I was at a conference on community health, and I heard a speaker say, your zip code has more to do with your health than your genetic code. And while I think I really always knew that really resonated with me this time around. And I really thought, how cool is that? Because we have a lot of influence on what happens in our zip codes or our communities, and much more than we do on our genetic code, obviously. The idea of healthy communities and sustainable communities and health are not mutually exclusive. We know that they're all connected to each other. Where we live is very important to our health. And to really think about this, we need to think about what are the things that impact health, because when we think about what impacts health, we can think about how sustainable communities are important. And the Center for Disease Control and the World Health Organization has identified 4 areas of influence. Now, the interesting thing about these areas of influence is they don't have the same impact, and I want to talk about those. The one we think of most often in terms of influence is access to medical care. What that really has an impact of is about 10% on our health. Now, that's not to say that that's not important and it's not critical, because it is, and it's life-saving in many cases. So it's important for us to think about where we put our health facilities. Are they available to everyone? Can we get to them? Are they accessible by other means than driving to them? Are they where the populations Are they the right types of services? The more we can get rid of these barriers to access to health, the more healthy outcomes we can have. Accounting for 20% of what influences health is genetics and human biology. And this is pretty hard to impact. But as I think about it, how do we manage toxins? What impact do toxins have on our biology and our genetics? You know, when we think about wastewater or just even runoff, storm runoff, and the impact it has on our streams and our water quality. How are we managing our waste cycles, our waste streams? How are we protecting our environmental resources like our water quality, our air quality, soil quality, by keeping these toxins out of there? I think a perfect example of this is lead poisoning that has come through lead paint, an environmental hazard that manifests itself in a biological way, resulting in needing medical attention. But we found ways to mitigate this through some mindful building and some mindful means of policy also. This also starts to get into the next thing that impacts health, and that has to do with the built environment, which accounts for about another 20%. Things we need to consider with that are we keeping the population safe in the man-made environment and through the natural environment? Are we considering how we interact our built spaces with the natural environment? Are we planning for those within our urban settings? Are we thinking ahead in terms of our natural resources, our different habitats and things like that? And so we look at these opportunities for recreation and, again, for looking at the natural resources. The other thing I think we need to think about is our transportation and the safety there. Are we allowing for safe access around the community? Are we allowing for more efficient travel? Are we allowing for less emissions? And for supporting more active types of lifestyle as we go through our community. Access to affordable and safe food is critical to health. And right now in Polk County, we have food deserts. There's places in our community where people do not have access to these food sources. And we have different types of things that are available to them. Not all neighborhoods have that kind of access that's important, except for where there's a come and go we found. The other thing I think that's important when we plan our communities is how we address agriculture and food security. Are we looking at the family farm all the way down to community gardens so that people can grow their own food, adding to their healthy lifestyles? And lifestyles and behaviors is the biggest part of what influences health. It's 50%. We always hear of great outcomes in regards to health out in Colorado and the western states, and people will say, it's because they have amenities like this. They have access to this. This is what inspires their lifestyles and creates healthy behaviors, creates healthy lifestyles. We don't have mountains in Iowa. We don't have oceans. But we have a lot of beautiful amenities. We have a lot of beautiful things that we can access, a lot of resources. And with some creativity, we can guide folks to these things. We can get people involved in these healthy lifestyles. And through some great planning, you know, we get results like this that leads people outdoors. Anybody that has kids, anybody that works with people, or anybody that is a human knows that lifestyles and behaviors are the hardest things to change. So we have to look at how do we set conditions that help people have these healthy lifestyles and participate in these healthy lifestyles, and so that they can sustain these lifestyles. And it's important that we provide a lot of opportunities for folks in their communities and at various levels of income so that everyone has access. A few years ago with Healthy Polk, we had community conversations and we asked folks, what would a healthy community look like? And one of the things we heard over and over again is it would look like Gray's Lake. And I think Gray's Lake is a perfect example of an area that supports multiple types, well, the power of 10, as we heard. Lots of things for healthy lifestyles. The Des Moines Park and Recreation Department told me that there's over 800,000 uses of it every year. And I think there's more places in this community we can have like this. On top of that, I think it's a wonderful place where we can see the natural environment and the human environment. I mean, who hasn't seen this down there? You need to go down and see this. And if you want a sense of community, I'd say stand and watch the Eagles for a little bit and see how many people come up and talk to you. Talk about a sense of community. But this is a wonderful thing to see in an urban setting. Creating sustainable communities is about creating healthy communities. And that's what I'm passionate about. And healthy communities support healthy people and sustains healthy lifestyles. So the more we can plan, the more we take control of what we can influence, the better off we are. Thank you.
All right, to close out Volume 9, we have Suku Radia. He's the CEO of Bankers Trust and came here over 40 years ago to attend college and fell in love with Iowa. He may be the most overextended community leader because he really enjoys paying his civic rent. Please enjoy and welcome Suku.
Thank you. Well, you've heard a lot about sustainability. What I'm going to do is to provide you a corporate perspective. How should corporations play, and what are we doing as an organization, and how do we support this community? So first of all, you heard I came here for over 40 years ago. That's a picture of me. And, you know, almost 41 years ago, I was a nerd back then. I'm still a nerd. You're not going to be able to change certain things. And furthermore, you know, I speak 7 languages, so I can do this in a different language if you want me to, and nobody will understand, neither will I, and you won't know whether I'm telling the truth or not. So I'm going to talk about community support. I'm going to talk a little bit about diversity. I'm going to talk about leadership, mentoring, and work-life balance. We recognize our veterans. Obviously, these are our unsung heroes. We have a very, very serious commitment to veterans and the honor flights that took place for the World War II veterans. So I do think as we go forward and think about the plan of tomorrow, we have to do that. So that was about community support, continued about community support. You can see John Morrow standing there. He extracted a fair amount of money for our support for the Italian Heritage Festival. And I pointed out to John that with a name like Radia, I have 2 vowels at the end of my name, so I'm more Italian than he is. But in any event, again, about community support, the Principal Charity Classic is a great event. Nobody ever really thought this was going to be sustainable. It's become the #1 event on the Champions Tour, which is truly remarkable. And when you talk to the players or talk to the winner there, what he would tell you is he will always come back to this community as long as he is competitive, because this is what this community is about in terms of pure support. This is about the employee and family resources. Every family rocks. It's about kids. And as I heard earlier, it's about the next generation. So I think that's awfully, awfully important from my standpoint. Angela started by talking about the next 50 years, and I feel the same way, so we have to do that. Our senior lending officer was recognized by the governor, so we celebrated with a cake for 20 years of involvement with Easter seals. Again, as I said earlier, we talk about community support. That is awfully important, and I hope all corporations continue with community support in a bigger way than even what they're doing right now. Then, of course, whenever there's a walk being held or whenever there's an event to be sponsored, we seem to be right there. So this is the ALS walk. We had no difficulty trying to field a team. We fielded 2 teams, but again, I chaired that walk, and we managed to raise $275,000 for that walk last October. I hope those types of things continue from a community perspective. This is the Iowa State game. We always sponsor the opening game. The check I'm holding is a $350,000 check, the United Way. Again, another one of those agencies that does a superb job, and we happen to have the #1 per capita in the country. Why? Because of the great support of this community. From a diversity standpoint, continued support of every kind of festival, any ethnic festival, and I think that is something that we cannot lose as a community. Diversity is very important. 21% of our workforce happens to be minority, and 71% happens to be women, and I take my orders from women at work and at home. So that's awfully important. Dr. Jim Bowman, we celebrate Black History Month by recognizing him. He's in his 90s, used to be an educator in the school system. Tuskegee Airmen received the Congressional Gold Medal. Truly, truly one of the unsung heroes of this community. Truly a wonderful, wonderful man. So we brought him over to recognize him appropriately. Chinese New Year, again, I talk about diversity and celebration. That's something that I hope we can continue as a community to expand on, because when I came to this community, it was not nearly as diverse as it is today. So again, diversity is very, very important as we go forward, because I do believe that the best thinking comes from divergent viewpoints. This is about a little bit about leadership. If I don't set the right tone at the top, then I'm absolutely not doing my job. This was at the ALS walk last fall. 2,100 people showed up. It was just a spectacular event. But again, it was about community. We were expecting 1,000. This is my executive team, and the reason I wanted to show this is because I do community work and they do all the heavy lifting, and that's why the bank performs as well as it does. So I have to give credit to the team that I have. They're just absolutely fantastic. Couldn't do it without them. And I really hope that we continue attracting the kind of talent in this community that we need as we go forward. And of course, as I look around, I look at the next generation. Again, when we talk about marketing, branding, etc., what I simply point out is that as a community bank, we take our responsibilities very seriously. We received an award for our support of community. We don't do these things to receive any recognition. We do it because it's absolutely the right thing to do. Mentoring, we have a great intern program, and we have 250 applicants for 10 interns, but this is about recognizing our interns at the end of the summer to let them know we appreciate everything that they did for us. And usually out of this group, which comes from all over the country, we'll end up hiring 3 or 4 after they graduate from college. This is the Young Professional of the Year. Laura Hollingsworth from the Des Moines Register introduced me. We sponsored this, and she said, why don't you put on your website what you don't sponsor? It'll be a short list. But again, this is a great event, again, about celebrating young people, and that's why we're such an attractive city for young folks, which is awfully important. And this young man is going to be joining us upon graduation next month, an absolutely outstanding intern, and we were really pleased that he chose to work for us. He had plenty of other opportunities, but it was the internship, and it was more about this community that really won him over. The next piece that deals with work life, that's very personal for me. That's my wife and 3 children. So I do have some balance in my life, and I hope that our children ultimately find their minds and return to Des Moines. One's in Washington, D.C. at law school. One is going to start her MBA at USC, and one is at NYU. They're very expensive. That's why I probably need to work for my life. But I do have some fun. The person there who's pretending to show me which way the putt is going to break is John Bucciarossi. John Bucciarossi is on ESPN. He was a guest at the Principal Charity Classic. And the person standing behind him knows nothing about golf, and that's Barry Griswold. At 6'9½", he plays Army golf. Everything is left, right, left, right. And this is just to let you know, I can't sing, I can't dance, but that doesn't prevent me from going on the stage and doing Soul Man with an orchestra that comes for the Bravo Award. So it's about work-life balance. So there you have it. And again, I simply just say thank you and keep up the great work. And Angela, thanks for your great leadership.